Welcome to the Habits and Hustle podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
All right, so we have today two great ladies. They're both the founders of a new place called Squeeze. One is Brittany Driscoll, and the other one is Alli Webb, who are both from Drybar. Alli, of course, was the co-founder of Drybar. Still is. It's a small company. You may have heard of it before. And Brittany was the VP of marketing, right?
Yes.
Now, is that how you guys actually met as working together? You weren't friends before?
No.
Brittany was kind of a super fan.
I was a huge fan of the concept. I followed them and Alli's story, and they were looking for a head of marketing. And I kind of stalked everyone in my network to figure out if someone knew someone who could at least get my resume to the top of the pile type of thing. So,
wow. Is that how it happened?
Yeah, it is.
So where were you working before Drybar?
I worked in advertising. So I worked for several different agencies. I got a chance to work with Disney, Barbie, Hot Wheels, Coca-Cola, Hilton, really great world-class brands, and got a lot of experience there. But the idea of coming in-house and owning one brand and getting to build the team and all of that was very appealing and exciting to me, and the stars definitely aligned. So
I like what you just said. So you did something that I actually I'm a big believer in. You found the one company. So instead of just taking by default what was in front of you, you were very laser focused and went after the one company that you really liked to get the job that you wanted.
Yeah, I've always been. It's funny when I look back on my career and big decisions that I've made. I've always kind of known exactly what I wanted to do, and then actually made the leap to do it. I think it's a lot of people in the back of their mind think, oh, that something would be fun or nice, or I really want to do that, but you really do have to go for it.
Right. You got to just actually take action, which is what we were saying before the camera rolled. I was saying to Alli, I think sitting right here, that one thing that I say that you say a lot, because you've done so much press, and I was saying to her before, what can I possibly ask that you haven't been asked a million times about the Drybar, right? Or Drybar. And what you did say, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, maybe expand on it, is that people just analysis paralysis. People don't just act. And what you really sometimes just need to do is just take a leap and just do it, as opposed to thinking about it, deliberating about it. And that's really where you find the opportunities, and you kind of figure it out as you go. Is that kind of?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that people get very caught up in, having everything figured out before they, kind of embark on it. And the truth is, and, we're living proof of this, that it doesn't work that way. You don't know you can't possibly know what you don't know before you get into it. And there's a zillion things I didn't know that we had to change and fix as, we were growing the Drybar brand, and still have to change and fix today. It's kind of an ongoing process. And I think that budding entrepreneurs, people who want to become entrepreneurs, they get really stuck in that, well, I don't know how to do this, and how am I going to make this work? And I don't know this. And you just you can kind of go crazy, and then you never do it because it just seems too overwhelming and daunting. And it is overwhelming and daunting, but it's one day at a time, one step at a time, and you kind of figure it out as you go. I mean, I'm sure, Brittany would say, I remember when we were starting Drybar, and it was when I think about all the things that happen in those first few weeks and months, and how upside down we felt, we thought we were so prepared, and we were so not prepared, but we thought we were. And it was just we were operating under this let's just kind of go and figure it out. And I think that's also a mindset too of of me not being fearful of the outcome of it, and just kind of going with it. And I think it was probably that a lot for Britt and Squeeze when we started. There's just all these things that you don't realize aren't the way they're quite supposed to be until you're operating the business.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are afraid of that, and it's scary. So I get it. I think to be an entrepreneur, you also have to have a very thick skin, and you have to be kind of ready for anything.
Absolutely. But I think it is about your mindset, right? If you're prepared for the possible, or knowing that there's going to be rejection, there's going to be a lot of hurdles that you have to kind of go over.
And a lot of things are going to go wrong.
Right. Exactly. To get to the stuff that goes right.
Right.
So before you started Drybar, you obviously saw a need for it, right? Because you started that in home, you were going to people's homes and just basically blow drying their hair.
Yes.
Besides the fact that you saw that there was like a need for that in the marketplace? Obviously, a huge need. What were your biggest strengths that gave you that boldness to actually go and try to create this business?
I mean, I think it was a handful of things. I mean, I think first of all, it's like I had an influence of watching my parents who were entrepreneurs operate their business, and that, and my parents' business was retail. It was a clothing store. And so for them and the retail business, even though we're in the retail business, we don't have as much inventory, because when you're in the clothes business, you have, all these clothes, and if they don't sell, you're just stuck with them.
What do they own? What is this?
It was in South Florida, where I grew up. Nothing you'd ever heard of. It's called Flips, which was my dad's nickname. And it was like schmata old lady clothing stores. And they were brilliant, though, because at that time, and this is like 30-ish, maybe more years ago, older women only had the option of shopping at department stores. We grew up in South Florida, which is where a lot of retirees were. And so
I know it well.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's grandparents live in South Florida.
Every like Jewish old person I know, including my parents, they went to Boca or.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Boca is where I grew up.
Oh, well, there you go. Perfect.
And Boca is where my parents' stores were. And so they opened these little old ladies clothing stores in these strip centers. And my dad had worked in this
it's really smart.
Yeah, it was smart, because they opened them right next to like retirement communities. So the old ladies would take their little trolley across to the strip center, and there was like the bagel shop and the dry cleaner and the little grocery store and like the little hair salon, which, side note, my parents are like, that's what you want to do? When I told them I was going to beauty school, like work in a hair salon like this, I was like, no. But
anyway,
hilarious.
How many stores did your parents have, though? How many locations?
They had up to like 7 or 8 at one point. But yeah, and so they opened these little mom and pop retail stores, and my dad would set out chairs in the front of the stores and bring the husbands like orange juice and coffee and bagels in the newspaper, so that wives would shop longer, because they were very content. My dad was both my parents were great entrepreneurs, and they opened this store where now these ladies had somewhere to shop other than going to the department stores, which, that didn't exist. Like Chico's, which is like a modern day, like upscale version of what my parents' store was.
I know it well.
I mean, Chico's basically carried what my parents' store carried, but it's just a much more modernized version of it. So that's kind of what Flips was. And so I grew up in this world of watching my parents run retail operations. What was your original question?
Well, no, okay. So
so off track.
No. But by the way, just to say, do you remember Loman's?
Yes, of course.
Do you know how they had those those couches where all the men would sit and fall asleep while the women would?
I don't remember that.
Oh gosh, that's my childhood memory. Yes, my dad would be snoring on the couch, and my mother's like trying on like God knows what for like 5 or 6 hours. But like Boca is like it's the breeding ground for that.
I know, it really is.
But what I was asking you, what was the qualities about you that you knew you had that was kind of like that gave you that feeling or that boldness to try?
I think that I do believe it was somewhat in my blood, that I think that I grew up in this world of watching my parents operate their own business and seeing that, like, the freedom it gives you when you have your own business, although it comes with a lot of stress and you never get to not think about it. Right. But I knew that world. And so I think there was just like, it was just kind of built into me. And I think that I was never afraid of failing, I think was a big thing. And I remember when we were concepting this idea and starting to talk to people about Drybar, it was very new. There was nothing like it in the marketplace. And, people were like, I don't know, like, how do you make this business work for $35, and our build out, which my parents thought was insane. Our build out was so crazy and expensive, and their stores were kind of schlocky and they didn't put a lot of time or money into that. And ours were very expensive. And it's like, how does this business model work? And, I was like convinced that at least in LA, where I had like been operating this mobile business, like there would be enough women to support, perhaps just a very small mom and pop shop. At the time, we were hoping to do something like 30 to 40 blowouts a day. And that would be, and I did the math on that, and that seemed like a viable business. We weren't going to set any records
World
on fire.
Records, yeah.
But that would be like a nice business. I'd pick up my kids from school, and like that would be my life. We severely underestimated the demand and what was there. But to answer your question, I think it was just like, I always felt, and it's such a silly thing, and I've said it for years, like I always felt like no one's going to die if this doesn't work. my brother mainly was going to lose money. We would lose some money too, but like it was, I had this feeling in my gut that this would work on a very small scale and that this could be my livelihood. My husband at the time was in advertising and had a pretty good job. And so I was like, yeah, it would really suck if this didn't work out, but like no one's going to die. And I think my risk factor is very high or low.
Well, I also think your background, right? Like you come from your parents, they were good role models. Like you saw them doing it, which I think eliminates the fear factor.
If it didn't work, like we were all really smart and capable, we'd go find jobs. And that's the thing about, being an entrepreneur or really doing anything in life. It's like you try it, and if it doesn't work, you try something else. And that's kind of how that's how I felt about Drybar. I hoped and wished and prayed it would work. And if it didn't, we would figure something else out.
I totally believe in that attitude. And like, that's the thing, like people, there's no real magic formula, I find, right? It really isn't. It's just more about like trial and error. And the people who are just more persistent and go after it, it's a numbers game.
And it's hard work. I mean, it really is. And it's, it's been really nice, that Brittany's really done all the heavy lifting on Squeeze, and thank God. Because it's like 10 years. I was like, you have to make all those annoying.
Well, I was going to say, how are you able to still be doing Drybar, now being involved? Like, are you day to day involved with Squeeze still? Right.
Not, and I'm not like in the weeds. It never was really with Squeeze. I mean, when we were all concepting the idea, we all kind of collectively gave our input.
Explain what it is, by the way, because I think I call it like the Uber for massages. Is that kind of like?
Yeah, I'll let Brittany explain it because she does it best.
So it's a new massage concept, and we have bridged the seamlessness of the on-demand service with a beautiful brick and mortar destination. So really the idea is you do everything on our app. You book, you set your personalized preferences, pay, rate, tip, review, all online, so that when you're in our location, so we still, have a brick and mortar, it's truly relaxing. It's seamless, it's transactionless. You're not having to deal with a lot of the clunky transactional components that exist in the current, formula that people are used to experiencing massage. So, I mean, it really is just this very fluid, seamless process.
And the price point though it's not cheap, right? It's mid-range. Like you can pick and choose from all different kinds of massages, right? Like you can make it as fancy or as
it's more
simple,
personalized.
Personalized.
But the pricing is consistent and like flat. When we took that a lot from the Drybar model. I mean, we have 2 membership models, so $79 a month for a 50-minute massage and $99 for an 80-minute. And then if you come more frequently, there's discounted pricing beyond that. So we're still
affordable.
we're still within the range of a regular routine behavior or maintenance.
I was just comparing it to, I was just thinking for the Drybar, because you kind of came out with like a very reasonable priced blowout, right? Affordable luxury, right? And we'll get into all the branding, which I think is amazing and seamless. But I was, when I first heard of Squeeze, I thought that you were kind of replicating the Drybar model. But then when I dug a little bit more, I realized it was similar. Like the look and feel is very similar, right? But it's
totally different.
But there's so much more. There's so many more components. Like you can't go on Drybar and say, I want to have a Cosmo today or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And you can do that with Squeeze.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we really elevated the personalization factor. So you can choose your therapist. You can read about them. You can see reviews that people have written on them. You can literally set your preference down to avoid my calves, but spend more time on my shoulders.
You can be that specific with it. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's all saved to your profile. Your therapist reviews it prior to even walking in the door. So it's like they know exactly what you want. Wow. You're not having to have the awkward like in-person exchanges. And then
and it's also great as like the number one just Squeeze customer is like anything that I have ever said in a previous massage, they make notation of it and they kind of bring it back up next time. Like, do you still like this? Do you want this? So it's so highly personalized that people love it, because I feel like, so the whole reason for Squeeze, my brother and I, Michael, were big massage connoisseurs, got massages always. And it's like, you inevitably always forget to tell your massage therapist like something, or you don't like this, or you don't like that. And there's like a million things that when someone's massaging us, it's like, for me, it's like, I don't like a lot of pressure on my shoulders, but I do everywhere else. But if I tell you that, then you're going to go light everywhere else. It's just like so all these things that happen.
You're speaking my language. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And so we really like accounted for all that in the app. And I think that's what differentiates Squeeze than from any other massage company ever.
No, 100%. Like, how many times have I gone to some of these massage places that, like, they're convenient, but yet you don't know who you're getting. It's like it's a crapshoot almost every time.
Yeah.
And that is awkward with the money, and they tell you how much you need to tip them. It becomes like a whole uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about the personalized, because you're literally getting exactly what you want.
Exactly.
And, like you said, like, it's like you can say, don't do this, because you're right. If I say if it's too hard on one place, then they're like basically barely touching you on everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you can not only set like areas you want focused on, but then the desired pressure level more or less are the same. And then when you get into the suite itself, you can also adjust lighting, temperature, and music. So again, from a customization standpoint, it's truly to your liking. All that information is saved to your profile. So the next time you come in, your suite, we call our room suites, your suite is set to the way that you've chosen from
that's amazing.
The time before. Yeah. And then like Uber and Postmates, you get to flow out and rate and tip at your leisure. So it's really
But the
cool
best
experience.
part is there's a little button under the bed. So once you like undress and get under the bed, there's a little button you push that like lights up a light outside that the massage therapist then knows you're ready to go.
It's called the ready button.
So what? That's because how many times you rush? Of course, I know. Of course.
And you're like, shit,
she's gonna walk in.
And then you're like waiting. You're like ready and waiting forever for them to come back in.
They're in there the second you hit the button. It's great. It's my favorite thing.
It's a total. All these things I think a lot of people can relate, but it's only one location, right?
It is.
How many are you planning on like basically blowing it up into multiple? Like what is the plan to scale it?
Yeah, so we're scaling through franchising. And I think by the time this comes out, we will actually be selling franchises. So
it's not like Drybar.
It's not.
And it was an interesting evolution for us to get to the point, I think, of wanting to franchise Squeeze exclusively. I mean, I do think that, I don't know, tell me if you disagree, Brittany, but I do think that the Squeeze model, because so much of it the back end is the technology that's already kind of handled. I think it's an easier concept to franchise because the app does half the work for the shop. You don't pay, you don't tip. That, that check-in and check-out is like really seamless and short, and you don't have to watch people walking in and out. So, at Drybar, it's like, you have to check in, you have to check out, the tip, there's a whole thing. But, and so much of that is people. And, and so it's just harder. Not that the people thing isn't important at Squeeze. It's just an easier model, at least from my point of view, to duplicate and to make great, because we've done so much of the heavy lifting with the technology.
Yeah. Although I would say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brittany.
Well, I was just going to say that, and massage is an ingrained behavior in society. I mean, when we were scaling and growing Drybar, it was like every market we went into, it was kind of like, are there enough women who are going to, come and pay for hot air, basically? And so I think with massage, we knew that, but it's like, with every market we went into, it was still a new behavior that was being introduced. Whereas with Squeeze, massage exists everywhere, and the opportunity
it's for men too.
Yeah, exactly. 100% of the population versus just 50. But, so we're making it better, like Uber did with transportation, and Netflix did with content, and Amazon did with retail. I mean, I really do think we're just introducing a better way to experience the behavior that already exists.
Yeah.
So for all of that, I think it makes it easier.
It's interesting though. I think what Drybar does so great, and why I think you tell me, but part of the success is the attention to detail, right? The customer service is everyone, exactly what you're getting, and it's specialized and personalized, where it makes the whole experience for the user, for the client, very easy to understand. And
that's so much what Squeeze is built on too. I mean, obviously,
exactly.
It's the same founding team of Drybar, and plus the added Brittany.
The founding team of Drybar. Yeah, it's true.
It is. It's the same creative. It's the same architect. It's the same builder. It's me and Michael and Cam and Brittany. So it's the same. And so that so much of the experience that Drybar delivers is, Squeeze is really even more amplified because you can do so much more on the app, and it's also super personalized, but a different model.
But are you guys going to do it where, how if you go to Drybar, well, of course, you'll say, I want a cosmopolitan blowout. I want a Mai Tai. I want this. So you're training your employees to make sure like across the board, everyone's getting the same experience.
Yes.
And so how do you train massage therapists? Are you going to have people who go in there and be like, okay, if they want to have a deep tissue, yada, 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 this is how I want you to do it? Because I guess my point was earlier with the branding and seamlessness of Drybar's success is you knew exactly what you were going to experience. Like every massage every blowout, you knew it's going to be a Mai Tai at this.
Right. Well, the thing about massage is it's very personal. And the reason that we created the app to the way that it is so that you get what you want. So every person's experience is going to be different. And quite frankly, every time we go in, it's different also. It depends on the day, it depends on how your body is feeling, et cetera. And that's intentional. I mean, we didn't want it to feel cookie cutter because the last thing you want is to not feel like you actually, have results after your massage. So it's intentionally meant to be personalized, but we do there are a lot of protocols in creating consistency within the experience so that you're at Squeeze. Like one example is we've created what's called a signature squeeze, which is basically a start and an end to the massage. So each massage starts and ends the same way. It's like compressions down the back. We use hot towels. There's like kind of this whole thing. And it's one of those you probably don't know it the first time you walk in, but then the second and third and fifth time you're like, oh, this is a Squeeze massage. That's how it starts. Right. But everything in between should be catered and personalized to you because that's the experience that we're selling. And it's certainly what we want to deliver against. I mean, so much so that the way we design the suites is there's an area where our therapists set their iPads and they actually have access to all of the information that you've shared visible on the screen. I mean, we've created everything from like an actual body. So it's denoted where to focus, where to put more pressure, et cetera. So it really is intentionally designed to be all about you.
It's like highly
wow,
specialized.
I want to try this.
Yeah, you need to.
I know.
I can't believe you haven't gone.
I know. I was saying to Brittany earlier, I'm like, I cannot believe I haven't tried this because we met like a bunch of months ago. And I'm actually kind of bummed because it does sound like a really good experience.
It is.
I mean, the reviews are off the charts. I mean, amazing.
Yeah,
like,
it's neat.
You need to open one up. A franchise has to open around me. That's the problem. It's all location, right? It's like where you are.
We definitely need more.
For sure.
Like when do you think it's going to start to build out?
Well, so we're literally like probably a week away from being able to start selling. And then I think from there, I think we'll start to see additional locations open middle to end of next year.
So then what is what is your role then in Squeeze and your husband's role? Like he did all was he in charge of branding for Drybar, right?
Yeah, he's creative. I mean, he's like the creative. Yeah,
he did a great job.
Yes, he's so brilliant.
Now my ex-husband, but
okay, so
but still,
okay, sorry,
we're on good terms.
Oh gosh, I didn't know. When did that happen?
About a year ago.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
well, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're all very amicable.
Are you dating someone else?
I mean, I am dating.
And the plot twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are questions nobody's asked me.
Oh, good. I'm good. Then now we're getting into the real meat of the podcast.
I talked about that. We actually, I have my brother and I have a podcast called Raising the Bar.
I sure do. I know all about it. A lot of my friends have been on it.
Oh,
Tony
cool.
Coe from NYX Cosmetics has been on it. A lot of people, but
well, we just had the girls who run the 3-day rule, which is like a matchmaker on.
Oh my god!
And that episode is actually
my friend just hired them actually.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. Are they working with you too, or
maybe?
I might know a couple.
Listen to Raising the Bar.
Well, yes, exactly.
but yeah, no, it's it's all good. And yes, I am dating, so it's a whole new world.
I sure do. I don't know if you guys know this, but
I'm like pretty shameless about like setting
you
up.
should be definitely be shameless. So me and my best girlfriend, we started a breast cancer charity called Babes for Boobs. And every year we basically auction off the most eligible bachelors.
I remember you told me
in
about
LA.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
For dinners, and they go for a lot of money. So I'm constantly to your point of being shameless. No, but what my point is, I meet tons of eligible bachelors constantly, and I'm on the lookout, and I have minions all over the place looking.
When is your next event?
It's December the 5th. First of all,
mark your calendar.
Absolutely. That's definitely, both of you have to come.
It sounds so
Number
fun.
one. It's beyond fun.
I'll bid for you.
It's so fun. So I definitely have like a couple people I can send your way just from the I guess the masses of men.
Well, I mean, the thing that's funny and what was interesting about, well, the timing, it was funny with Talia, who's the founder of the 3-Day Rule, because I had like just stopped dating somebody on like a Sunday and I recorded her podcast on a Monday. And I was like, well, this is like divine intervention. And I was like, because she was like telling us, you know, it's really interesting because when you think about matchmakers, you know, she was like, basically like everyone's so busy.
Yeah.
You're not hanging out in bars. Like, where are you meeting people? And then she was like kind of one of those women who was like, when she used to work for E, I believe, and in her cube, like people were always coming up to her because she was constantly setting up people that you never thought would be a match. And
they actually worked out.
And they work. And her, like, her track record is ridiculous.
That's so fun.
It's really neat.
So
and
fun.
so she started this company. Talk about going out on a whim. You know, she was like, then she started like more and more people were like constantly asking her to do this. And she loved it. And we were talking about this. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but I was reading this book called Light is the New Black. And it really talks about like, do the thing that lights you up. And, you know, she was saying that even though she had a great day job and she was making good money, she was like, what really like made me come to life was like the excitement about setting people up. And she was like, so I was like, how do I turn this into a career? And she did that. And her company is like pretty big. And, you know, it's true. I mean, and I know this because I'm living proof of it because I'm in my 40s and I'm like, well, shit, how do I meet guys now? Like, because it's one thing when you're in your 20s and you're
of course it's
out
easier.
in your bars.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and I met my ex-husband at a bar and, you know, now I'm like, where are they? And by the way, it's been a bit of a rude awakening.
I was going to say,
dating. It's been
a couple things. Number one, do you find guys are intimidated by you because of your success?
Yes. That has been the biggest. When I tell you that this last year, I've been punched in the face, figuratively, so many times. That was a big one. I was like, whoa, what's happening? Like, I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I believe I'm pretty humble about like my success and all the things, you know, and I don't care about like money and all of that stuff.
Also, like, because you have it though, you don't need to care about it, right?
You know, but it's just like, to me, it's like, I'm so old fashioned, like love conquers all and it doesn't matter. And I really believe in all that. So when I've met and dated men who, you know, haven't achieved perhaps the success I have, or they don't believe they have, they do get very intimidated. And I'm like, why? It doesn't matter. It's all good. And like, I don't care. And it is this thing that I'm like, oh, this is kind of a roadblock. You know?
I mean, for sure. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I think that I would think that would be what that would happen. And also, we're in a city, you know, where it's
of course,
very difficult on a good day to meet
Yeah.
somebody, right? And then you add in all these other layers to it, you know. So, what's the kind of guy that you actually do like? You know, we're taking a real turn on this podcast. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, I mean, as much as I love talking about Drybar and Squeeze, I mean, Brittany knows this. I much prefer to talk about the real shit. You know, I don't know. I don't really know what guy. I think it's funny because I think it's so interesting how the younger generations now are very. There's such a pendulum swing with like the Me Too and, you know, women empowerment. And I mean, nobody's more for that than me, but I also like love like a chivalrous guy, like open the door, be the man.
I was gonna say, you want like romance.
I'm like a big romance. And it's funny because I've dated guys who like don't open like car doors and they're like, why would I do that? I'm like, because it's the thing to do. That's what you do. But they're like, no, and they've told me whether this is true or not. Like, you know, some women are like, don't fucking hold my, sorry.
No, it's okay. You can say whatever you want.
Don't hold my door. Like, I can do it myself. There's this mentality of women like, no, I can do everything myself, which, yes, of course I can. But I do subscribe to that kind of, I guess, called old fashioned, like, chivalrous, like
I couldn't agree. Like, you're speaking my words. I don't understand with all these things. I know it's not like the PC thing to say with the Me Too movement and everything else, but it's taken like a very strange shift now, where now like men are
so
afraid.
scared.
They're scared to like.
It's like gone too far.
It's gone so far. People are scared to
and
work
as somebody
with
like
women.
dating, I've seen it so much where men are just, it's like, even like, sites like Bumble, like, Whitney's a good friend of mine, but it's like this, like the woman goes first. I'm like, well, I want a guy to pursue me.
100%.
I want that. So it's an interesting time, and I am navigating the dating world, and it's been fun.
I'm sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely been fun, but it also is like, okay, let me find somebody good.
Yeah, like I think that to find somebody who has that, like, the confidence not to be intimidated.
Exactly.
And,
like somebody seasoned and like,
I feel like you're
really
not going to find that in LA.
Yeah, it's super
in their own
difficult.
skin.
I mean, like this could be like a 4-hour podcast on this. I swear to you, because this is like another area, like you said, like I could go on and on about this forever. But this is why I like doing this podcast. Like you're saying about your friend from the 3-day rule. Like at the end of the day, you want to do something that you like. I'm so curious and interested in like just real talking to people.
Right.
That this gives you like a platform for that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we took a tangent. We're not talking about like entrepreneurialism, but like it does say a lot about who you are as a person and what's important and what kind of drives you as a human,
Yeah. Well, I think this last year has just been, so many changes in my life, and building this new business, and and I have a bunch of other like projects that I'm working on.
How many more projects can you be working on? I mean,
well, I mean, I have others. I mean, obviously there's the podcast that Michael and I do. And
how often are you doing your podcast?
Well, we release episodes every Friday. So we'll record a couple at a time, usually about once a week. And then I have a TV show that I'm working on. And
which TV? Is it like a
it's
pilot?
It's not like an announcement.
Oh,
I haven't made the announcement yet, but it's like,
it's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, and then I just, I actually, I speak a lot at a lot of different events, and I have a lot of different like little projects like that. And, I think because the last year has been a challenging one for me, I feel like very, inspired by mental health and talking about like mental wellness, which, perfectly aligns with, Squeeze and some other projects we have working on that we can't discuss.
You're great at like, kind of like getting that soundbite about Squeeze. I mean, you know how to like ricochet from one thing and go right into the next, like how to kind of like
media training. I've been doing
many
this for
times
10
you can
years.
tell.
Yeah.
You know how to get your point in there. Like as I was segueing into Squeeze, we got it. Squeeze,
True.
Squeeze.
Truly, like it is like it, it's like a feel good brand, just like, Drybar is like, better than anybody. You go to Drybar and you get this like pep in your step and this lift in your spirit. And that's, the same thing happens with Squeeze when I go to Squeeze all the time, because it's like, I just need to relax. And even if like I'm so tired and maybe I would take a nap, I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Squeeze and get a massage. So, I think all of those things kind of inform a lot of what I've gone through with like doing things that make you feel good,
So how are you able to like, what is like, give me like a day in the life of you, because between the kids, you got 2 kids, you said 12 and 14, right?
Yes.
Is that how? Okay.
Yes.
You have Drybar, you have the Squeeze, you have maybe the TV show,
The
you have the Squeeze.
I like the Squeeze.
The Squeeze. You have all these, the Drybar.
Yeah.
You have so many projects. How do you like have time? Like, are you really good with time management? Like, what is your
Am I good
deal?
with time management? No.
Yeah.
No, that's yeah. I actually beat you somewhere today. Well, we actually showed up exactly at the same time. Damn it. I'm usually late. So no.
I'm impressed. You weren't late today.
I know, I was good.
Yeah.
I've gotten better.
You have gotten better, actually.
Yeah.
Like shockingly
really
so.
trying to be better about that. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about my life, which is I actually really love, is that it's every day is 100% different. I'm never doing the same thing. And even when it comes to like my kids, because now I share custody, so I don't have my kids every day.
Okay. That gives you more time, or
no, which is great.
Yeah, it gives you more time. I was gonna say, like,
you made a face like it's not a good thing. It's a great
no,
thing.
No, I was gonna say, actually, I felt like kind of jealous in a way. You know what I mean? Like, oh god, that gives you 50% of time.
Yeah, it's
like,
amazing.
Yeah.
My best friend has been divorced twice actually, and I've always been like, you're so lucky. You only have your kid like half the time.
I know.
And
it's
it's
like
not
the
that
worst thing to say, but
I
it's
love
the
my
truth.
kids dearly, but there's also something that really magical that happens, because I don't see my kids for a couple of days, and then when I see them, I'm so excited to see them, and I'm so all in and focused. I'm not like promoting divorce. I don't want to be like, don't go get divorced if you're happy, but if you're not happy,
Exactly.
maybe get divorced. But so it's like every day is different. If I have my kids, like I'm up earlier, and everything shifts. But it's like between, press that I'm doing, projects that I'm working on, my own personal stuff, Drybar squeeze, it's just every day is different.
But like, okay, so this is called Habits and Hustle. So I know you said, I saw that one of your habits is like meditation, TM meditation and infrared saunas. But besides like, things like that, I want to know, like, what time do you wake up? How do you keep yourself organized? You have a great assistant. How do you like keep yourself, or is that just one of your really good qualities, is you're able to have a lot of shit happening at once and you can manage it well? Like,
well, I think I do have a lot of shit happening at once. And I have a really great team, from an amazing assistant. I have a social media person. I have a PR firm. I have an agent. So I have a lot of people who are kind of rounding out the team and are very like laser focused on the things that are important to me. And the things that make the most sense for me to be focusing on. So I think that's kind of how I stay organized. But I'm able to dictate a lot of that now. And, there's a handful of things that I'm doing kind of on a regular and constant basis for Drybar, like, our product videos and making sure hair is always great when we're shooting something. So, products, I'm still overseeing, no product goes out the door without my okay on it. I still dream up some products. So I'm still pretty involved in that, but that doesn't require me to sit in an office every day and have a routine. So, like that's a bucket of things I'm doing. With Squeeze, I'm not in the day to day, but we have board meetings and we have conversations, and I am constantly testing out the service to make sure everything is up to par.
She's our quality control.
I was going to say, I'll be the quality control. I'll be more than happy to be your quality control.
And then, I am bridging a bit of a gap right now into like, this area that does kind of light me up, which is like talking more about what I've gone through this last year and the things that I've done to help me kind of get past what was a really difficult time.
What have you done to get past it?
Well, the Transcendental Meditation was pretty huge. And I do, a big splurge of mine was buying an infrared sauna that I have in my house, and I'm in that thing.
Which one did you have?
It's
Clear Light.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's great. And I think I had used it at, there was a place I was going to that was like, there you could sit in an infrared sauna for
Tonic.
Yeah, it was Tonic on Beverly. And I loved it so much. And my ex-husband and I actually bought it together in our old house, but I got that in the divorce. Yeah. And because it's an infrared sauna, it has like all the different lights. So
is it a big one though, or is it the one
it's like
your
a
body?
2-seater?
Oh, okay.
So like 2 people can fit in it relatively comfortably.
What are the benefits that you feel that you get?
Well, I love that you sweat so much while you do it. I also love hot yoga. So I like
so you love that
I like the
detoxing.
Yeah. So I love to like just sit in there and like sweat, and all like, it has Bluetooth. So you can I listen to I read a lot of books, but by read, I mean listen.
Yeah, like Audible, you mean, yeah.
So I'm, I'm constantly listening to books. I hike a lot. And then I've also been to astrological readers, and I go to a Reiki healer. I do all the stuff.
I love the astrological stuff. The Reiki, I have a good friend of mine who's like a master Reiki healer. And that's one I just don't really understand.
Have you done it?
Yeah. And you know what? I have. And they lie you on the bed and they move your energy. I feel like you have to kind of really have your mind, and you have to really believe in it.
Yeah.
You have to believe in it.
But I also think it's the person. And a friend of mine, a very, very close friend of mine, recommended this woman, Betty, who's amazing. She's in Silver Lake.
Betty. Such a good name.
Such a good name. And she's like, when you meet her, she's like, I don't know, she's a little older, and she's just so wise. And we sit down and talk. She's not like a therapist per se, but we sit down and talk for probably a good 20 minutes, and I just kind of blah everything that's going on. And she just has really good life advice,
insight.
Yeah, she's very wise, and I think she says to me, I'm like, oh my God, that's so good and true. And then she does the stuff on me, and I do believe in it, and I think I so wholeheartedly believe there's something to energy, and what you put out there comes back. I'm also literally on my way over here, I was reading, what's her name? Gabby Bernstein. Do you ever read it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
She has a book now called The Attractor.
Is that the new book?
It's her newest one.
Right.
And I'm listening to it now, and it's so good. And it's you have to remind yourself to see the good, be the good, and one of the things that she talks about is choose that it's a choice that you make, you choose to be happy, which I know is a little heady and woo woo at the same time. But, all of that stuff, I'm kind of constantly I have a life coach. Like I'm constantly like always trying to feed myself with that because it was a really tough year for me. And so I needed to like find these things and, I think a lot of people do.
But I think those things are helpful. I mean, like I believe in the energy as well. Just the Reiki, I'm going to try it again. But I do
go to Betty.
My friend will be very upset if I did that. But I should try just in terms of just research. I should try Betty.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think
market research.
I think all of this stuff, like that's why like I was asking you, and we're going to get to you, Brittany, in 1 second about your habits. Yeah. But I think trying all that stuff is the only way you really can grow as a person, right? And it's like the more you do something, the more you kind of like that becomes your new normal. Mm-hmm. And that's how you really like change your brain and change your mindset, right? Like you can't just be closed off and be like, I won't do that. Because probably a little bit of all of that stuff has helped you.
Yeah,
you take a little bit from this, a little bit from that. Like,
because all the books I read, it's like some stuff resonates and some stuff doesn't. It's like, you take what resonates.
What resonates. So like right now, a book, you said that you're reading the Gabrielle Bernstein book?
I'm reading like 3 books. I'm reading several books.
Okay, what books are you reading now?
Why Buddhism is True, which Ara recommended, who's one of our good friends and investors.
Okay.
But it's a great book. And it's...
is that a new book or is it an older book?
I don't know if it's new or old, but it's called Why Buddhism is True. And it's very on the same kind of level of everything else that I, am kind of ingesting right now, which is this like, it's a lot about meditation too. And just like how transformative that can be.
So that really has helped you a lot. It seems like that's kind of like shifted
and
your...
it's like my 14-year-old son has also gotten very into meditation because he's been dealing with some stuff. And, that's the thing too. It's like I think people like kind of chuckle at meditation. And I think I was that person who was like, no, it's kind of...
Right.
But it is really powerful and it really, really helps. And it really like centers. And especially if you have like anxiety or depression, which I get a lot of anxiety, and meditation has been the thing that has like really like leveled me out. And Transcendental even more so because of how it like, you transcend. And if you find yourself in this like fight or flight mode and you're not making good decisions, like it helps like kind of level you out. And there's a whole lot.
No, a lot of people buy the TM that is supposed to be the Transcendental is supposed to be, people have told me for years to try it. And kind of like you, like, I'm not there yet because I feel like, meditation, like I feel like I'm so like A-type, like I won't be able to.
I'm so A-type.
Right. But then a lot of A-type people are like, I love it.
It's actually
better.
For A-type.
I know. And I feel like, again, like I should take the advice because of what I even do right now. Right. And just try it. But were you able to kind of accept it really like right away, or did it take you a while to kind of get good at it?
I was also in like a very like rough state when I started it, and I had a few girlfriends who had also been through divorce and were like really had gone through it, and they're like, it was one of those things like, again, talk about like the universe pointing you to something, where a lot of people in a very small amount of time had told me to try TM. And I had tried meditation before, and like I had the apps and I tried like breathing, and I just couldn't get into it. And so I was kind of like, meh, about meditation. And they're like, what I loved about the TM is you really have to kind of get trained on it. So I did it at the David Lynch Foundation, here in LA. And it's a 4-day, like just an hour or so a day for 4 days that you go in, and they really teach you how it works and why it works and all this stuff. And I think I liked like, I'm like a very like, teach me how to do it thing, kind of person. And they did. And it immediately like, it made me feel like a little bit better. And they say it's cumulative. And so, it's like over time, I've noticed just such a shift in me. And I mean, Brittany and I are really close friends. And I'm sure you probably would say that it's like, it's changed me.
Absolutely.
Once I started doing TM, like.
How often do you do it?
Twice a day, 20 minutes.
20 minutes twice a day.
I mean, sometimes I'll only do like 15 or 10 or 15 minutes, depending on like if I'm crazy. But I mean, I'll even like pull over sometimes in my car in the morning if I'm like, because I have to get up at 6:30 to get up my kids for school. And if I have to do that, then I don't usually have time to do it in the morning. But if I don't have my kids, I'll do it before I even like get out of bed in the morning. I'll just like sit up and
you can do it in bed. Do you do it too, Brittany, or?
I don't do TM. I really want to learn and like go deeper. I do meditate though.
You do. I know that you said in your thoughts, you journal, you pray.
I do.
Are you religious?
I am. I grew up in church.
In church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, my habits, if you will, I'm an early morning person. I mean, I get up between
really
like
early.
5 and 6 every day.
And you don't even have kids.
I do set an alarm because it's like so important to me to have that time that I like don't want to miss it type of thing. But
so you wake up at 5:30?
Most of the times I wake up at like 4:30, no joke. Like my eyes open and I'm like, okay, wait, I should try and get a little bit more sleep.
Really?
Are you serious?
Yeah, like this morning I was up at
Don't you feel like you've given up so much of your like life because you have your kids and like not getting enough sleep that like and I think between building Drybar and raising the kids in the last like 15 years, like when I don't have my kids, like I want to stay in bed as long as humanly possible.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, that's what I'm saying. You don't even have kids.
And early though. It's not that like, I mean, I go to sleep between like 9 and 10, honestly.
Yeah. You do? What time do you go to sleep?
Late, between like 11 and 12.
Yeah.
What are you doing until 11? Reading or listening to your books?
I mean, it's like I'm all over the place. Like I do watch a lot of. I do love TV. I love to like.
Me too.
Watch a show or a movie.
But do you go to a lot of functions? Like, do you have to go to a lot of stuff? Are you learned to kind of say no to most things?
I say no to most things now, for the most part. I don't really like to do something unless I really want to do it.
Are you involved in a lot of these women? And because we were just talking about all the Me Too stuff, but there's so many like women empowerment groups and things like panels and discussions and seminars and conventions. And
there's a lot.
I mean, it's like endless. It's become like, it's a huge hashtag, like, do you basically participate a lot would be the way you say it?
I'm pretty picky now with like what I want to be involved in. And it's really like, what I'm going to be talking about. If it's like, like Rebecca Minkoff is a good friend of mine and she just did this founder made thing. And so of course I did that because it was her. And
what is that? I just got an email about them.
I mean, she basically, it's basically like a very like female founded, like all like almost not a committee. But all these like local female founders in like New York and LA, who are really just giving a lot of advice about. And
it's a panel though, or like a speaking thing?
I did like a keynote.
Right.
Kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that those groups and those conventions, those things are great, and I think a lot of women who are trying to figure out how to start, what we were talking about in the beginning, like how do you start?
Yeah, I know.
How do you do it? I think it's having access to, women like us.
Or people who've done it before.
I think is really amazing. And I don't think that existed. That 100% didn't exist when I was starting there. And I do talk about this a lot when I'm speaking, how there just wasn't, there weren't like a lot of female role models when we were all growing up. And now that
it wasn't trendy also back then.
Like
now it's trendy.
Like founders are like a thing now, and so
I feel like the entrepreneur is kind of like the new rock star, right? 100%. Because it's like with the Gary Vee and stuff like that, he's become like synonymous with like the entrepreneur. Like he's like people are looking at these people. I mean, it's not a woman, of course, but I'm saying entrepreneurs in general. It's like, it's become like the new type of like rock star. Yeah. It's like the cool thing to kind of be involved. It's so interesting
to watch how like the evolution of, celebrity and like influencers and, founders. And it's an interesting time, which I think it's great because,
it's so great.
For people to be idolizing, or maybe that's too strong of a word, but looking up to founders, it's like, I feel like I kind of idolize, not just talking about female, like, like Mark Zuckerberg, like I'm so fascinated by what he did. I was so fascinated by Steve Jobs and, and then a lot of like, female entrepreneurs as well.
Name me a women entrepreneur that you look up to.
I think there's like, it's funny because I'm friendly with so many of them.
That's what I was going to say. It must be funny to be in that space right now.
It is funny. It is. I do feel like,
because now you're one of those people in that same kind of clique.
I don't totally feel like that, but yeah, I guess. But like I mentioned, Rebecca Minkoff, Candace Nelson, who started Sprinkles, is a friend of mine. Whitney.
Oh, from Bumble?
Oh my God. Why am I Whitney Wolf? Whitney Wolf. From Bumble. I'm around a lot of, female founders. And then, even like my friend Sarah Happ, who has a lip scrub company.
Oh, right. She sent me some stuff. I loved it.
Yeah, she's like one of my best friends. It's like all of my friends are founders of companies.
Because it's like-minded though, right?
You're all in the same world.
Right. You gravitate to people that you're like-minded to. That makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like what happens in life, right? You become, water finds its level. So, so sorry. So go on what I didn't mean to cut you off, right?
No, I mean, actually to that point, I feel like my journey has been so neat because in addition to having access to Alli, and Michael, I've become friends with so many like great female owners, business owners, in the space. Like I'm obsessed with Plate Fit. I think I was talking about this last time we were together. It's the vibration workout.
Oh, right. You didn't, I don't remember that, but I know what Plate Fit is, right?
Yeah. So like Rachel's amazing. And then Felicia from Box Union and Sophie, who you introduced me to from Shape House. Like we kind of have this like group text string where it's like, how much do you pay for your towels and who do you use for it? And it's like neat. It's great because it's like,
it is.
To what we were talking about earlier, there are so many things that you just don't know. And it's sometimes hard to know where to go to find the right information, or at least like gut check that you are, doing things right, or at least somewhat in line. So that's actually been really, I think, so neat for me, like just to have access to people who are willing to share that and also feel comfortable. I think it's like a comfortable thing too, to be able to talk to other women.
Absolutely. Who's kind of going through the same thing that you're going through or been there before.
Yeah.
So then let's get back to you waking up at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, yes.
And then are you praying at 5:30?
I
Okay.
do. So I pray, I meditate, and I write in a gratitude journal. And, my gratitude journal is kind of like two parts.
She taught me to do that too.
Writing. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it's such a great thing. So I write like 5 things I'm grateful for. And it's like little things like, the sunset was beautiful last night, or the flowers are in bloom, or the person at the coffee shop remembered my name, or my robe is super comfy, or like, just like the smallest things, because what it does, and I started doing this actually when I started Squeeze, is it changes your outlook for the entire day. Like you literally do start to look for the good. And you notice small things. Like one of our values actually at Squeeze is little things are big things. And obviously the intention being around just creating a great experience for people and being thoughtful and doing like a little bit more of the, going the extra mile type of thing. But it's like when you start to look for those things and you start to consistently think about them, that's just how you train your brain and your mind to start to shift that way. And
Absolutely.
I think I've always been a very positive mindset person, but I will say, this, going through like building a business, it really does like rock you to your core. And there's so many, setbacks and things that if you didn't have, I think Alli was talking about it earlier, I think you kind of have to have the belief in yourself that you're going to figure it out. And if you don't have that in your core, I think it will be very difficult to, pursue anything along these lines. But so I've always had that like very positive mindset.
Yeah.
But this practice has definitely helped me foundationally through this process that I'm just super grateful for.
Right. Great. Exactly. There you go. Great.
Yeah.
I think that's like another thing, right? Like anything that you do enough times becomes the new normal, right?
Yes.
And that's your new habit. And I think habits are, the reason why I think habits are so important is because it does train your brain differently.
Yeah.
And the more things you put on autopilot that are like that way, you give your brain space for other shit that you need to take care of.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's why I was like, what are your habits? What time do you wake up? Because I think all of that, and like you're consuming so many things, Alli, that I think you don't know what works for you unless you just try a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the bottom line. And one thing I didn't ask, and I wanted to kind of really talk about, because we got like very sidetracked, which I love, by the way,
it's like my middle name.
No, that's my middle name too, by the way, is the importance of like branding. And like you guys at Drybar, and I know you guys are doing it with Squeeze too, like did such a great job with that. Like you it's like the look and the feel. Like how important would you say the branding is versus timing versus like, what do you think that the top 2 things are and really to kind of be a successful brand?
Well, I always say that the branding at Drybar is what initially got people in the door.
Mhm.
I really always felt that way, that, people were excited about the brand when they discovered it through our app or online or an article, or they saw pictures of it. It's like people wanted to come in and see what it was all about because it looked beautiful. It was an exciting new concept. And when you walked in the door, our architect, Josh Heitler, who's also the architect for Squeeze, which, side note, for entrepreneurs who are watching or listening to this, it's like, hiring great people who are good at things you're not is like one of the, talk about pillars of success. And I remember Josh, teaching us about the space and the discovery of a space when you walk in. And I couldn't have articulated that. I didn't understand it. And when he explained it to us and how he built Drybar and how he designed things, it was like, wow, that's so genius. And that is why you love a space or you love a restaurant. There's things about it that you love. And there's kind of, one of the big things that always resonated with me that Josh said was there this surprise and delight. So you kind of walk in a space, and as you kind of walk and navigate through it, you kind of discover these discoveries happen that you're like, oh my God, that's so cute. And I love that. And oh my God. And you're just kind of like, it's almost like sensory overload in a good way.
Yeah.
And he really did that with Drybar, and God help him, because when we were concepting the idea, it was like, I want it to be modern, but then shabby chic and but also really clean, but also really homey and comfortable. It was like everything was opposing that I said to him. And yet he still managed to come up with this very sophisticated, modern, but warm environment. And so, and he did the same thing with Squeeze. And so, I think it was and Cameron, my ex-husband, who does all the branding and creative for Drybar and for Squeeze, him and Josh work very closely together to create that. And Josh is the architect, but Josh and his team also do interior for us as well. And it's everything from the color of the walls, to the color of the floors and everything in between. But Cam and him work together to when you come into Squeeze, you'll notice, and Cam and I were just talking about this yesterday, there's so many little things that, and I don't want to tell you or ruin it for people who are coming in, but there's so many little things that you discover when you're in Squeeze you're like, oh my God, that's so cute. And I think the reason it makes you successful is because you feel like somebody cared a lot about how this place looks and feels. And therefore you just can't help but feel taken care of in that space. When you walk in a space that's not that clean or not well curated, or I was just in a place and there was cords everywhere, and I was like, I just don't feel like anyone gives a shit right now about this place. And that doesn't make me feel like I'm going to have a good experience. And it just kind of sets a spiral of it potentially not being a good experience. When you walk into Drybar or Squeeze, all the little attention to detail, I think makes people feel someone's giving you a big hug, and
it's the attention to detail.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's subconscious too. I don't even think people even know why they like a brand.
Exactly.
But they know that they like the brand.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's you don't know that you're looking for that, but then when you do, it makes the biggest difference.
Oh yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. Huge difference. Cause it's funny, since Drybar, of course, you were the pioneer, but there's been a lot of different blow dry places, I guess.
I haven't noticed.
Exactly. I know, exactly. Neither have I really, but,
no, I know.
That kind of pop up, but not even close to the depth and reach. I mean, they have 1 or 2 locations, maybe 3 on a good day, or maybe,
Well, I think that it's so much of what I said, between Cam's genius creative and Josh and, and I was the hair, and it's just I believe that it is truly a dream team. And, and the same goes for Squeeze. It's we never would have been able to do Squeeze if it wasn't for Brittany. And then it's that same team that she's now cultivated in Squeeze. And it really is the people around you make such a difference to your success.
Yeah. And so that's what I was going to end. I wanted to know what you both think are your top 3 qualities that make you successful, and what you have to kind of hire for, or basically find partners to alleviate some of that. Go ahead, Brittany.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think one of my biggest strengths is having a vision. I mean, I really am a big dreamer. I believe it's funny. I mean, this is obviously my first entrepreneurial venture. And so a lot, and there was so much collaboration, but one of the things that I think I've really owned and want to continue to build on is this culture that we've created. We talk about Squeeze as a feel-good company, and we have this phrase like the feel-good revolution. It's one of our values, and it's kind of this idea that we're building something bigger and greater than just the experience that we're delivering. I mean, obviously massage makes you feel good, but there's so many components to creating this revolution, if you will, that goes into the way we're making not only our guests feel, but our team as well. So I think having a vision and dreaming and believing in something bigger, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to get there, is so important when you're leading a team. And so I think that that's something that I,
so you're visionary.
I really have a strength in. Let's see what else.
You can do two.
I'm strategic. I think from a planning standpoint, I'm certainly that. And then I think I love people. I really value people and try and invest in them with my time and different ways. And I think especially when you're in the, I say we're in the service business, but we're not in the service business. We're in the people business. And so I think that really makes a huge difference.
And then what are the two things that you need to kind of, are weaknesses, and you need to find people who support that?
Do you have any weaknesses?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, talk about when you start a business, it's like your weaknesses are,
they really come out. Don't
yeah,
they?
Exactly. It's like the light shines directly on them. I think I'm not an operator traditionally in retail. So we have a chief operating officer who is amazing. I mean, just gets into the detail and the analytics and things that, I very much value, and I do to a degree, but not, when you meet someone who's that's their core of what their strength, it's you realize oh, I guess maybe I'm not as, as strong in that sense. And then I think I'm impatient too. I definitely have a impatience factor to me that I try and curb. Yes.
I love that. No, I think it's really important to be self-aware, right? I think a part of people's success is knowing what you're good at and what you're bad at.
Yeah.
I'm really good at a couple things, but I'm really bad at a lot of things, most things.
Yeah.
So knowing that and finding, seriously, that's the truth, right? You have to be, I think part of it is knowing what you're good at and bad at, so you can at least then alleviate some of that. So you're next, Alli.
Okay, so what are the questions?
The question, what are you really good at? I asked you this at the beginning of the podcast, besides being fearless, okay, because that's for sure. But what are a couple of things that you are really big strengths of yours, and and then a couple of things that you're weak in that you had to kind of find to help balance it out?
I don't know. What am I good at?
Hair.
I am good at hair. I don't know. I think that I'm good at, I'm very ambitious. I'm very, very driven, which, by the way, doesn't really work in the dating world.
I know, right? I love how it's
that's great for business, not so much for dating.
Well, it's fine. Why? It should be, though. Why not? Why can't you be driven and ambitious? It should be a full-time. And quite frankly, given your success in the professional, you could put now all that energy into personal. That's what I would do if I were you.
Well, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
I think that's, I think that I'm very, very driven, and I'm very goal-oriented when I want something. You really can't stop me from doing it. And I think that's been a big part of my success, both with the business and probably personally, that I just, I'm very I'm going to figure this out and get it done. And I think that I recognize this kind of maybe straddles the fence on both of those questions, because I think I recognize the things that I'm not good at. And I think that is perhaps a skill that I've honed over the last 10 years with building Drybar, because, initially in the early days, Michael and I were doing everything. And so as time wore on and we started bringing more and more people on who were actually better at a lot of the things that I didn't have any experience in, I learned that I have to, surround myself with people who are smarter than me and better. Brittany's a great example. When she came in, she basically put together a marketing department and put systems in place, and things ran, our store openings ran smoother. All of our product, big promotions, everything was just better and smoother, because I didn't know how to do that.
So more operations, kind of what you were saying.
Yeah, you're probably funny because she was saying that.
I know,
but
it's just different. I think it's just different.
I know what you're saying. You're really probably really good just from hearing this conversation. Marketing plans, decks,
100%,
strategy.
She's so data and whiteboards.
I can totally see that.
Managing inventory, and doing payroll,
Excel spreadsheets, financials. credentials.
Neither one of us are good at that.
That's why
you're probably better at it than me.
When you were saying all this, I knew exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
But I remember when Brittany first started working with us, and I'd walk in her office and like a whole wall was like a whiteboard, and it was like all this stuff, and she had all these calendars for all this stuff that was happening in like a year from now, and I was like, I can really only think about tomorrow.
Right.
How, and that's also how, I mean, I think it's a strength and a weakness is like, I can be very like, I'm very uber focused on like what's happening. And so I think, you know, it is like a strength and weakness of mine, you know? So,
a lot of times people's strength is also their weakness.
I think 100%.
You know?
Yeah. So I think it's really, and I do talk about it all the time. Like you have to bring in people who are, you know, if you want to grow your company, people who are smarter than you, know things that you don't, compliment you, all of that stuff. And I think that like, you know, another thing that I've learned on my journey is being really open to feedback and constructive criticism. And I think that was a really hard pill for me to swallow, both from, you know, people I worked with who were like, you know, especially like my big brother who loves to tell me all the things I'm doing wrong because he likes to like, as he said, like keep my head on straight, but give me like feedback of like how I maybe spoke to somebody or how I could have handled something different or, you know, better. And so I think, you know, I think embracing that and not being so scared of it and not letting that like put you on the defensive, which it's kind of an active thing that you always have to work on. And I think it's also true of like our clients, you know, our customers. I get very, very, very upset when someone didn't have a good experience and it like hurts me. Like it's like a dagger to my heart when someone comes, you know, but
it's your baby.
I've had to like learn how to also take that in stride and that, you know, it can't all be perfect 100% of the time. I mean, I don't think I'll ever relax from that like perspective, you know, and also for me, like when I walk into our stores, I unfortunately, I see everything wrong and I see the things that we could be doing better and different, but I'm able to now like rely that information on to somebody who can help without like having a fit right there in the store, which I've done. But I'm getting much better at that. So, you know, it's like, I think there's like a lot of things I'm good at and there's a lot of things I'm not good at, but I think it's recognizing the difference and where you need help and support is really the key to it all.
I couldn't agree more.
Work in progress.
We are all a work in progress.
Any more platitudes and cliches we can throw in here? Well, guys, I have to say, it's been a pleasure having both of you. I wish you so much luck with Squeeze.
Thank you. Come in.
Listen, I'm going to get the Squeeze.
Yes.
I'm going to. Thank you so much. Where do people find you guys? So why don't you start, Brittany, and we'll start, you know. Okay.
So Squeeze's Instagram is @Squeeze.
Not the Squeeze?
No, not the Squeeze, just Squeeze, which was a whole thing.
Yes.
My personal Instagram is Brittdrisc, BRITDRISC, and our website is squeezemassage.com.
Thank you. And you, my dear?
We are the Drybar, which was a whole thing too. And my Instagram is just Alli Webb, ALLIWEBB.
And your podcast
is Raising the Bar. So you can kind of get to it through my Instagram or just anywhere you get a podcast. Just type in Raising the Bar.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. You've been a delight.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.